Hi, I'm Sarah. Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to share something absolutely incredible that happened to me last month. And honestly, I still can't believe what I found hidden in my grandpa's old desk. So picture this. I'm cleaning out my late grandfather's study, surrounded by dusty books and old papers, when I pull out this massive leather-bound dictionary from 1927. The moment I opened it, I realized this wasn't just any dictionary. This was a time machine made of words, and what I discovered inside completely changed how I see the English language. Let me tell you the whole story from the beginning. My grandfather passed away 3 years ago at the age of 92. He was a teacher his whole life, and he loved words more than anyone I've ever known. Growing up, I remember sitting on his lap while he read to me, always stopping to explain beautiful words I'd never heard before. But after he died, his study remained locked. My grandmother couldn't bear to go in there. Last month, she finally asked me to help her organize his things. The study was like stepping into another world. Bookshelves reached from floor to ceiling, packed with novels, poetry collections, and reference books. Everything smelled like old paper and pipe tobacco. I was sorting through his desk drawers when I found it, tucked way in the back, wrapped in cloth. The dictionary was enormous, probably 5 inches thick, with a dark brown leather cover that was cracking with age. When I carefully opened it, a folded letter fell out. But here's where things get really interesting. The letter was from my grandfather, dated just 2 weeks before he died, and it was addressed to me. In the letter, he wrote, "Dear Sarah, if you're reading this, you've found my treasure. This dictionary was given to me by my father when I became a teacher in 1955. It's not just a book. It's a collection of words we've lost, expressions we've forgotten, and a reminder that language is always alive and changing. I hope you'll discover the same magic I did. Love always, Grandpa." I sat there on the dusty floor, crying and smiling at the same time. Then I started reading, and oh my goodness, what I found was absolutely mind-blowing. The first word that caught my eye was bumbershoot. Can you guess what it means? It's an umbrella. Isn't that adorable? I immediately thought, why did we ever stop using this word? Bumbershoot sounds so much more fun than umbrella. I started imagining myself saying, "Oh no, it's raining. I forgot my bumbershoot." My friends would probably think I'd gone crazy, but I loved it. Then I found flibbertigibbet, a word for someone who's silly and talks too much about unimportant things. I laughed out loud because that word perfectly described me in high school. I could just hear my grandpa saying it with a twinkle in his eye. The dictionary explained it came from Middle English, and people actually used it in everyday conversation. Can you imagine? But the real treasure hunt had just begun. I spent the next 4 hours sitting cross-legged on that floor, completely lost in this book. Every page revealed something new and wonderful. I discovered snollygoster, a politician who cares more about winning than doing what's right. Now that word definitely still applies today, doesn't it? We should bring that one back. I found collywobbles, which means having butterflies in your stomach or feeling nervous. How cute is that? Instead of saying, "I'm nervous about my presentation," I could say, "I've got the collywobbles." There was bumfuzzle, meaning to confuse or perplex someone. Cattywampus, which describes something positioned diagonally or askew. Snickersnee, a large knife, though the dictionary warned it was also used for fighting, which made it sound rather dangerous and exciting. And then I found my absolute favorite, petrogore. Wait, that one's actually still used. It means the pleasant smell that comes after rain. When I learned it, I felt like I'd discovered a secret. As I kept reading, something important started happening in my mind. I began to understand that every single one of these lost words represented a piece of human experience. People created these words because they needed them. They saw the world in a certain way, and language helped them express it. Think about it. Someone, somewhere, probably in the 1800s, was so frustrated with diagonal furniture that they invented the word cattywampus. Someone else loved the smell after rain so much they called it petrogore. Language isn't just about communication, it's about capturing moments, feelings, and ideas that matter to us. This realization hit me hard. Here I was, struggling to improve my English, always worried about making mistakes, always thinking I needed to sound professional and correct. But my grandfather's dictionary taught me that English has always been playful, creative, and constantly changing. The people who used these wonderful old words weren't worried about being perfect. They were having fun with language. I decided right then to start using some of these words in real life. The next day at work, when my colleague asked if I was ready for our big meeting, I said, "Honestly, I've got the collywobbles." She looked confused for a second, then I explained, and we both laughed. That old word created a moment of connection and joy. I started a notebook where I write down my favorite discoveries from the dictionary. Every evening, I read a few pages and pick one word to learn. I don't just memorize the definition. I try to use it in a sentence, imagine situations where I could say it, and think about why people might have created that word in the first place. My grandmother noticed the change in me. She said, "You remind me of your grandfather. He was always excited about words, too." That might have been the best compliment I've ever received. But here's the thing I really want you to understand, especially if you're learning English like I was, improving mine. Don't be afraid of language. Don't think of it as this serious, scary thing where you have to be perfect all the time. English is full of silly words like flibberty-gibbet and bumfuzzle. Native speakers make mistakes too. We forget words, mix up grammar, and constantly create new expressions. The beauty of language is that it's alive. It grows, changes, and adapts. Some words die out, like most of the ones in my grandfather's dictionary, but new words are born every day. 20 years ago, nobody said selfie or Google it or emoji. Language belongs to everyone who uses it. I still use that old dictionary every week. Sometimes I'll look up a normal word just to see how the definition has changed over the past 100 years. Other times I'll flip to a random page and see what treasures I find. Last week, I discovered honeyfuggle, which means to deceive in a sweet, flattering way. Isn't that specific and wonderful? My English has improved so much, not because I became more serious about it, but because I fell in love with it. I stopped seeing English as a test that I needed to pass and started seeing it as this incredible, living thing full of history, humor, and human creativity. Every word has a story. Every expression came from somewhere. When you learn a new word, you're not just memorizing sounds, you're connecting with centuries of people who spoke, wrote, laughed, and communicated. So, find what makes you excited about English. Maybe it's song lyrics, movies, old books, or comedy shows. Whatever it is, follow that excitement. Learning English doesn't have to feel like homework. It can feel like discovering treasure, just like I did in my grandfather's study. If you ever get the collywobbles before speaking English, just remember you're doing great. Every new word you learn is a victory. Be patient with yourself, have fun with the language, and don't be afraid to sound a little silly sometimes. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to hear about your own English learning adventures in the comments. Have you ever discovered a word that made you fall in love with language? Share it with me. I'll be back with another story about the unexpected ways we can learn and grow. Until then, keep learning, keep smiling, and maybe even try using bumbershoot in a sentence. Trust me, it'll make someone smile. See you next time. Bye-bye for now, my dear friends.